City. I'm Clover Frederick and I'll be your host. The cold weather has arrived and the holidays are approaching. To help us all get through safer this year, I'm joined today by Rick Campos, a fire inspector and investigator for the City of Lincoln, and Julie Anderson with Safe Kids Lincoln-Lancaster County. Thank you both for joining me today.
Oh, you're welcome.
Pleasure to be here.
Good. Well, let's start with Rick. What are some of the biggest home safety concerns during the colder winter months?
Yeah. First of all, portable space heaters, portable heating, chimney fires, and probably candle fires would be the top three for the winter months that we're looking at.
Okay. And those are really the leading causes of fire then during the winter?
Yes, they are during the winter. During the year, it would be cooking, smoking, and electrical, but the winter brings on typically those three that we see.
Okay. Now tell us about the increased risk of carbon monoxide in the winter. Why the increase and how do families protect themselves?
Sure. Carbon monoxide is an off gas produced by when you burn fuel. So gas appliances, propane, something of that nature. And it's colorless, odorless, and you're going to get like a flu-like symptom. So it may be something that we're thinking that, hey, it may be a weather-related illness. And how we can protect ourselves and our families is to have a carbon monoxide detector. And that is typically that we're recommending that you have one on each floor and outside the sleeping areas. It works very similar to a smoke detector, but it just detects one gas only and will alert you, much like a smoke detector will, before those levels of carbon monoxide are dangerous for you and your family.
What should somebody do if their carbon monoxide detector goes off?
Sure, that's if your carbon monoxide detector alerts, you need to get out of the structure. Just like if your smoke detector goes off, you get out of the structure. You get to fresh air and then call 911 and they can come to your house, monitor, figure out is it some equipment failure or what's going on, and then they can get your services restored from them. But the first thing is get out of the structure, get yourself some fresh air, and safety that way.
Very good. Now, what are some other safety precautions that homeowners as well as landlords and renters, what can they take?
As far as carbon monoxide detection or as far as
safety in general?
Safety in general,
yes.
Okay. Well, back to the winter months, we're talking about candles and we're talking about space heaters as the other two causes of fires in the city. So on space heaters, what we like to do is plug that space heater directly into a wall outlet. Don't use extension cords or multiple extension cords, and then maintain a good safe distance. Typically we like to say about 3 foot from anything combustible. So if you have a space heater in your room, keep about a 3 foot clearance from the bed or bed coverings or some items like that. The other thing is with candle safety, make sure that when you light candles, because of the holidays coming up, a lot of people like candles, the scents and what have you, but make sure that we keep the lighters and matches away from little children, and also, again, that we have that clearance from combustible items. That could be Christmas trees, that could be decorations or anything like that. So a lot of people like to use their fireplaces in the wintertime and get that ambiance, and also for heating as well. So on the chimney fires, we want to make sure that we at least have that chimney inspected or cleaned once a year, especially if you're doing a lot of burning wood, because that chimney is going to produce some combustible material on the inside that's going to stick to the chimney. And if that's heated up, that could ignite a chimney fire.
And then the rest of the year, you mentioned smoking and cooking and some other things. What are some precautions that people can take?
Yeah, smoking and cooking and electrical are the other three items. So cooking is pretty easy, and that is stay in the kitchen when you're cooking. Most of the kitchen fires we have are unattended, and it's easy to get distracted, you know, on your phone or watching TV, or something comes up with the kids and you leave. So number one, stay in the kitchen when you cook. Number two, with the smoking, is discard smoking materials in a non-combustible container. So we've seen things, cigarettes placed in flower pots or milk jugs and such forth. So make sure it's a non-combustible container, something that's not going to burn. Typically we see fires around mulch piles around the house. So if you're going to discard cigarettes in that non-combustible container, at least 10 feet away from a structure. And then the electrical aspect is, a lot of people like to use extension cords, and in place of an extension cord, we just ask that you use a power strip. And that's a device that You can plug into the wall. You can get maybe 6 different outlets. And it also has a safety feature that if it's sensing overcurrent, it shuts off, much like a breaker system in your house, electrical breaker. So those are some great precautions that people can take to protect themselves against fire, and also to practice a fire safety plan. If you haven't done one yet, maybe draw one out. This is the first way out of my house. This is the second way out. Where are we going to meet? And practice those, so if the emergency comes up, it's just like second nature to you.
Okay, very good. Now, if a viewer is concerned about carbon monoxide or in need of a smoke detector, what should they do? Who should they contact?
Smoke detectors with either, we have hard of hearing smoke detectors or your ones that you just put up on the ceiling. If you need help putting one up or one yourself, if you call Fire Administration at 441-7363, area code 402. That'll get you the administration. Give them your address and name, and they'll send the appropriate unit out to come and assist you on either putting that up on the ceiling or actually providing one for you.
Great. Okay, now Julie, let's talk a little bit about Safe Kids.
All right.
So in a recent survey, 77% of parents considered their home to be safer than most. What can we take from that?
Well, most parents can't imagine that an injury is going to happen in their home, but the fact remains for kids between the ages of like 1 and 4, that's where most injuries happen, and it happens even with the best of intentions for parents.
Now, with the holidays approaching, what should anyone hosting a get-together keep in mind, especially if there's going to be small children?
Well, with small children, flat screen TVs are around, football's on. If you have a very adventurous 4-year-old who likes to be active and climb, if that TV's not mounted to the wall or strapped on a small cabinet of some kind, there's a good chance injury could happen there. Remotes. Everybody has remotes. How many do we have in a house? Several, in several rooms. Flameless candles, toys that have small lithium batteries can be a real disaster to small children and be life-altering if they swallow them. And what do kids do? They take things apart. So it's easy for that to happen. Grandma and Grandpa are visiting. Grandma and Grandpa come with prescriptions that they need to take. Maybe at home they can leave them on the nightstand. They can leave them on the table because there aren't small people around. If they're around and they're pretty, little kids can, think that they're candy. So there are several things parents can do. Safe Kids has a checklist. They can go to www.safekidslincoln.org, and there's a home safety checklist. It's a good idea for people to kind of peruse that occasionally to see what maybe they can do to protect their kids a little bit more.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. Now, you mentioned lithium batteries. What other sort of gifts that children should get that we might want to be concerned about?
Well, certainly age appropriate. Parents are always looking at things like, wouldn't that be cool to have? Really look at the toy that you think you want to buy for your child. Read the instructions. Go online if you have to. Read the instructions, read the warnings. And make sure it's age appropriate. A 3-year-old doesn't need a battery operated remote truck, to play with. And people need to really consider that when they're purchasing gifts.
Now, what other safety precautions do you have for us during the winter?
Outside, we want kids to play outside. We're talking about physical activity. It's great. It's good to be outside. Dress in layers for sure. We don't get a lot of snow, but it gets cold. So dress in layers, hats and gloves all the time. Make sure the kids come in once in a while for water because they can get dehydrated pretty easily. And certainly sunblock is even needed in the wintertime in Nebraska because the sun can burn you.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me today and giving us some winter safety tips. I appreciate it.
I'm Sharon CHENEY with Aging Partners here in Lincoln, and wanted to talk just a little bit about winter walking, getting out in the winter, still continuing your exercise program, but without the fear of falling. Okay, so we've got a few props. We'll show you a couple of things. We have this cane with the attachment that just snaps off like that, and then they put this right there when you're not using them. It just folds right back up like that. And so that's a nice addition to your cane for safety. If you're going out and you think it might be slick, have this in your car. It's just a bottle with a fairly large opening that you can keep sand or ice melt or something in it, so when you get out, you can kind of sprinkle it around till you get the feel of the ground beneath your feet. Have you ever stepped out of your car and there, whoops, and then there you are sitting on your rear end? So that might help you with that. We've also got shoe grippers on the bottom. Yak's Trax is, I'm not promoting anything, this was just a brand that will fit over your shoe. And then leave these shoes right by the doorway because they can be slick in your house on wood floors. Also, you may want to think about how we walk. You know, some of us, we just walk real stiff and everything. Have you ever noticed penguins walk? They're always so fun. They always kind of like, they walk like this with their, you know, their legs out like that, and then they just kind of waddle. But when we think of humans, we need to keep our knees a little soft and just walk slow enough, give yourself a wider base, and there you are. Some other options, we were talking about mall walking. Gateway is a wonderful place to walk because it's all indoors. Be careful coming in and out because as you step off some of those rugs, be sure that it's not slippery there. But you can also come, Aging Partners has a wellness facility, has exercise bikes, has treadmills, all sorts of activities that you can partake in. And also just think of a big grocery store. You can walk in a big grocery store. If you're out there buying things for your home, may as well just walk a few extra laps and then you're done. If you have your druthers and you don't have to be out, and there's no place you really need to get to, just hold on till the streets are cleaned a little bit more. Just kind of, you know, kick back, walk through your own house. If you've got stairs, you can walk up and down them, you can walk around. And like I say, you might feel like you're kind of funny, but it does get you out of that chair and get you moving again right in your own home. What we want you to do is stay safe and stay happy during this holiday season and all through the winter. Just stay safe.
Hello, this is Dr. Bob Rauner from Partnership for Healthy Lincoln. We're here today to talk about some ideas to stay a little more active and a little healthier over the winter holidays and maybe stave off some weight gain. Sometimes because of the cold and bad weather, there's other ways where you can do more activity inside. A couple options, some people will go to the mall. There's a lot of square footage that people can walk through. That's a nice place to walk. Downtown, people sometimes use the state capitol building, where if it's nice outside, they'll do the circumference of the building. And if it's not, then they'll walk on the inside around the outer chambers. Just because it's cold outside doesn't mean you can't go outside. Make sure you got an inner layer, an insulating layer, and a wind breaking layer. And usually you can stay warm, make sure the gloves are on, things like that. A lot of people are moving to things like step counters. Goal is to get about 10,000 steps a day, and it's a nice, easy way to monitor yourself. And it's getting easier to do. A lot of smartphones now have a step counter. A lot of people are using things like Fitbits or even just a waist clip-on step counter. Is a good way to just kind of track your activity over time to make sure you're staying fit and healthy. Another reason to consider staying active and being outside is that some of us get kind of the winter blues. We have shorter days. Sometimes your work day means you leave home and it's dark, and you get home and it's dark again. So walking over the lunch hour, the sunlight will actually do you a little good. If you're out for a long time, you still need to consider sunscreen, but the sunlight will help keep you a little more alert, a little more active. There are some good studies on seasonal affective disorder where people get a mild degree of depression over the winter, and some bright light can help with that, and getting outside is one way to do that. One thing that people forget over the winter is you still need to drink water even though it's cold outside. People think if I'm hot and sweaty, of course I need to drink, but sometimes when it's cold you need to drink as well. One of the reasons is that your furnace tends to dry out the air in your house. You need to still stay well hydrated for that reason. Also, if you drink plenty of water, you're less likely to overeat, which is kind of a problem with all the holiday gatherings where everybody brings a dish, and it's really hard not to just go back for more and more. If you intersperse with glasses of water, that tends to keep your stomach a little full, so you're just less likely to overeat. Well, hopefully some of these tips will help you a little bit over the winter. This is Dr. Bob Rauner from Partnership for Healthy Lincoln. If you want to learn more, you can always go to healthylincoln.org.
What if you could add 5 years to your child's life and make your whole family healthier with simple changes? Partnership for Healthy Lincoln wants you and your family to live longer, healthier lives. It's easier than you think. Walk the dog every day, play more, and text a little less. Swap out a sugary soda or energy drink for water once a day. Keep fruits and veggies handy for snacking. These simple changes can add 5 years to your child's life and make your whole family healthier. Learn more at healthylincoln.org.
Hi, this is Michelle Welch, registered dietitian and wellness facilitator for Lincoln Public Schools, talking about dressing for the weather. We all think of that Christmas story moment when the kid can't put his arms down, and we've all felt like that as kids because our parents used to buy us those giant puffy coats that we really couldn't move around in. Technology has changed, and we really have opportunities as adults and as kids to dress warmly without feeling like we can't put our arms down. Part of the difference is really what we're doing with layering. And so to kind of give you some examples, for me, if I'm wearing skirts, I'm always wearing a pair of tights, and maybe if it's really cold, a pair of fleece-lined tights over the top. Makes it so that I can wear skirts in the winter and still be able to enjoy not freezing to death. Further, when we look at our upper body or our middle body, I'm usually wearing an underlayer like this with maybe like a vest over the top of it. For kids, they really do great when they have these active shirts like these that wick the moisture away from them. You know, kids are outside and playing and running in ways that we as adults don't typically get to do during our workday. So really them being able to have this take that moisture away from them really keeps them tremendously warmer and is a huge important part of getting them dressed for the winter. And you can buy them for just a few bucks at a discount department store. Further, again, just like us with a vest, something like a fleece vest or a thin sweatshirt type item can really make a nice difference for them. And then as our outer layer, whether if it's going to be cold for winter, I have like these really super thin, inexpensive, kind of mini puffy coats. Or for the kids, they have these nice jackets where they just are preventing the wind coming through and the moisture. So something that doesn't take a lot of bulk, but that can really still be that protective layer outside these inner layers. For us as adults, as we're getting dressed, if I'm not having to worry about the moisture, I'll just throw on a wool type coat. And then most importantly, I have a scarf or something along that line. And this scarf actually can flip into a hat, or if you have a hat that you like, throw a cute hat on. If you're telling the kids they have to wear a hat, you need to wear a hat too. Make sure that you let your kids pick out their hat so that they're more likely to wear it. You know, hats are an important piece of their puzzle, and kids really struggle against those. So by us demonstrating wearing a hat and them having a hat that they like makes a nice difference. You know, for the fall, these gloves kind of work okay, but when they get to snowball weather, we really need to have a thicker glove that has a little bit more weatherproofing to it. It doesn't have to be super thick, but something that they really feel like they're going to be able to wear, and make sure you put their names on them so they don't lose them at school as easily. Finally, we can't forget about the feet. Wearing a couple layers of socks can make a nice difference and keeps you from having to have quite as much puffy insulation. But a boot like this can work for us as women and for kids. And for guys, they can do either a hiking boot or a snow boot, and it can really help protect them from the wind and the water and the elements to help stay outside longer. So finally, we want to really have kids be active, but we want to always keep everyone safe. So pay attention to winter weather advisories, or when it's blowing and just conditions aren't right to be outside. But when it's just a hair warmer, get out there with your family, layer the kids up, layer yourself up, and have fun with your family. If you're not going to be outside with them, make sure and set a timer so that you can really pay attention to how long the kids have been out, because they don't have a good indication of when they really should be coming in. They need us to help guide them. Get out, have a fun time making a snowman with your family, and enjoy a nice active winter outdoors.
My name is Damon Hershey. I'm with CycleWorks. I'm here to talk about some tips and tools to make winter riding a little easier. There's kind of three things you could break it down to: yourself, as far as like clothing, your bike, the bike itself, and gear and tools that you can add to your bike, and then of course the mindset and skill level for riding in winter. When it comes to yourself and gear or clothing, first thing to remember is the layer. You don't want to have just like a single t-shirt and then a big heavy parka on over that. What you'll do is you want to be able to control your own body temperature. Remember, when you're cycling, you're moving, so you're creating a core heat, body heat. So we want to start with a base layer. So the very first thing you're going to have on is a base layer that's going to wick or pull moisture away from your body. You want to be able to get that moisture away from your body, get it into the other layer so it can start to ventilate away from you. After the base layer, you're going to have your mid layer, and then of course your outer layer. Your outer layer is preferably something that's going to be wind and water resistant, if not waterproof, but you also want to make sure it's still breathable. It helps to even have ventilation points with the bike or the jacket. Your mid layers is something that, depending on your activity, if you're warm-blooded, hot-blooded, the actual temp outside is what you could build up and have multiple layers on underneath. The biggest thing with cycling is overdressing. You don't want to be comfortable warm in the first few minutes of your ride. You actually want to be a little on the cold side, because you're going to be moving. You're going to be building up that heat. If you're overdressed, you're going to sweat more. You sweat more, you're going to get damp, and that's when you can get chilled. And also drink. Remember, you are sweating, you are active, the air is very dry outside. You're going to get thirsty, and your body has a hard time telling you that you are thirsty in cold weather. So make sure to drink before you're thirsty and eat before you're hungry. Moving on to your bike. Now, if you have a bike and you've been riding it in the warm months, you could ride it in the winter. There are certain things you want to check for though. You want to make sure that your bike is in good operational shape. Winter is hard on bikes. You're riding through sloppy, freezing, wet, cold conditions. There's solvents and salt that's put on the road that's hard on your bike. And the last thing you want to do on a cold commute is to have your bike break down. Things to look out for is your drivetrain. Make sure your chain is properly lubed and cleaned. Make sure it's not worn out. You want to make sure your shifting and brakes are in good operating order. That's something you could take to any bike shop during the winter time. They have plenty of time in most bike shops to focus on your bike. A few tools that you can add to your bike to make it a little easier. Just like cars, there's good winter tires that you can do, just from a knobbier, softer rubber compound to full-on studded tires. You want to have fenders, one to keep all that slush and gray snow from splattering up on you, but also keeps your bike cleaner so it's easier to maintain the drivetrain. Other things like having a rack and waterproof panniers are going to make it easier for transporting yourself and what you need. Lights, you want to make sure you have front and rear lights on your bike. Lights are that much more important in the winter months because it is darker longer, it gets darker sooner. High-vis clothing, outer jackets, gloves, high-vis helmets and helmet covers are also a good idea. Anything that can help you being seen and make sure that people are aware of you being out on the road. There's other things like pogies. They're almost like a big mitten that goes over your handlebar. Nice thing about that is just like with your cord, you could layer underneath them. Mild day, you could just get away with a liner on most pogies, all the way to big, thick wool mittens underneath them. Winter riding is a little bit different than riding most of the year. A lot of it's this mindset. Do what's comfortable for you. Maybe just make Monday and Friday your bike to work day. If it gets too cold or icy out, that's okay. Ride another day. Start out slowly, get comfortable, build your confidence. Take your time. Realize it might take, especially if the roads are conditions are icy or snowy, it's going to take you a little bit longer. Give yourself that extra time by leaving a little earlier maybe. Be aware that your riding style might change a little bit. It's okay to take over a lane. If the conditions are bad, you might have less road to share with, so go ahead and take that lane. You're only going to hold up traffic or be part of traffic for a little bit longer. Riding in winter is really not that big of a deal. If you have the right mindset and you're properly prepared, you're safe, aware of your surroundings, anyone can ride all year round. Remember, it's riding a bike. It's fun.
My name is Gary Bredehoft with Tiger Coaching and Personal Training. I want to talk to you today a little bit about getting prepared for winter conditions for outdoor activities, whether running or walking. The first thing to consider is to take a look at that temperature. Obviously, I mean, if it's 20 below zero and the wind's blowing, the wind chills are 50 below, then we really got to take a look at whether it's even safe to go outside. But in most conditions in Nebraska, if it's at 30 degrees, light wind, or even 20, you can dress to be outside. And the best way to dress for this stuff is dress with layers. Of course, walking or running, with running you create more heat, so you're going to need a few less layers than you would with walking. The reason we dress in layers is because each layer will trap some warm air in between it. And with today's technology on clothing, it helps wick that moisture away from our body. So for instance, if you just wear a cotton t-shirt or long sleeve sweatshirt or something of cotton, the water, it'll tend to get soaked with water, cling to the skin, and the wind, once it works through you, it's going to get you wind chill and become very cold, and it could be dangerous, even hypothermic. So when we're talking about dressing layers, the first layer next to our skin would be a lighter polyprop or Cool Max type of thing that'll wick the moisture away from your body. It fits tight to your body, and then even for pants, we got some really lightweight tights and so forth you can wear. Sometimes we even start with a nice little layer of just a really light short sleeve shirt. Okay, so we've got that base layer on. We call that the base layer, the first layer. Then we're going to put a secondary layer that's going to be kind of the insulation or insulating layer that's going to keep the warmth in. And so this one here is a long sleeve, a little bit thicker. The moisture again will wick from your body into this layer. We'll go from there, depending on the weather conditions. I've used in the past a vest. This will kind of help stop the wind if it's windy and so forth, and trap the warmth in a little bit more. Or a nice jacket if it's a little colder out. This one is a moisture wicking jacket. These shells that you wear on the outside, which is the third layer, will help to keep the wind from penetrating your body and chilling you. You want to get a good pair of gloves. There's not a lot of good gloves out there depending on the extremities and the climate you live in. So these are a pair that are really nice. They're a warmer glove, but they also have this shell that would go over the fingers if it was a little bit windier or colder. So you want to find a nice pair of gloves. Again, you get a pair of these, they're going to last you years, so it's worth the investment on those. Also, we want to keep our head covered. Most of the heat that escapes from the body is going to go out through the head, so you've got to get those head covered. So this one also has a shield for your mouth if you need it, so you can breathe through, warm the air a little bit. Whether it's a polyprop type of stocking cap, Coolmax stocking cap, works good. Again, you want to wick that moisture. Last but not least is your feet. Instead of a real heavy pair of socks that will tend to keep your toes are going to get warm or cold and so forth, go with a couple light layers. This is a light layer. This is a smart wool sock that you might wear. And if you even wear a couple of light pairs, 2 pairs, again, the warmth in between the 2 pairs will keep your feet a little warmer. And also with that, depending on the conditions with snow and ice, you want to be careful if it's very icy out, but otherwise, winter types of walking and running shoes are really important. They got better traction on the bottom. Some have Gore-Tex, keep your feet warmer, and even waterproof if you're running in the snow. So check those out. They're a great investment. I have a pair of different shoes I use in the winter than what I use in the summer. You're going to probably find first time out that you come back and you are really hot and warm. It's surprising. You think you got to dress warmer than you are. If you go out the door and get ready for your run or walk and you're a little chilled, that's perfect because your body will create heat. And the other important aspect of winter running is make sure that you run out, check the wind conditions, and if there is a little bit of wind, run into the wind so you come back with the wind. Naturally, when you're running back with the wind, you'll create more heat and you won't have that wind in your face and you'll sweat more. So you don't want to be running with the wind and then into the wind back when you get more chilled and possibly hypothermic and those kind of things. Don't let winter stop you from getting out and running. Get out there, try it, get the proper gear. Some of the best runs are out when it's lightly snowing. It's very beautiful out there, so don't let that inhibit you. If you dress properly, you're going to be ready for a nice, motivated run or walk in the winter.
What will you put on your plate this holiday season? Some recent research by Dr. Brian Wansink from Cornell University has found that we tend to gain the most weight during the holidays, from about Thanksgiving through Christmas or New Year's. So this year, rather than make a New Year's resolution to lose that weight, instead make a resolution to prevent gaining it. One of the first things you can do is follow some information that Wansink found in some of his earlier studies. For example, he found that the larger our plates and bowls, the more we tended to put on them. So switch out that large plate and use a smaller one instead. Did you know that people tend to eat what's put in front of them? Both of these contain a cup of cereal. This larger bowl looks like you really need to add some more, while this one looks like you're eating quite enough. Some research says that people can actually eat about 20% less without feeling hungry. So have a healthy and happy holiday season by choosing the smaller of these. Use these hand signals to help determine the portion size for you this holiday season. For example, the palm of your hand is equal to about 3 ounces of cooked meat, fish, or poultry. Your fist is equal to about a cup. When you're dishing up that ice cream for your pie, you might just have about half a fist, or maybe even a little bit less. Your thumb is about 1 ounce of cheese, and the tip of your finger is about 1 teaspoon. A teaspoon or so of butter or margarine on that roll is only going to cost you about 35 calories. You start adding up those fingertips and you've got 100 calories from 3 teaspoons. So watch your portion size and have a happy, healthy holiday season. A good way to cut your calories this holiday season is to serve more fruits and vegetables. One good way of doing this is to add some salads. This salad is made with baby spinach, sliced strawberries, and slivered almonds, mixed together with a low-fat vinaigrette dressing. You might skip the ingredients such as the croutons or pieces of bacon, which are higher in calories. Also do add extra salt to the meal. Keep your calories under control this holiday season. If you're near a food that is higher in calories and very tempting, move as far away from it as possible. Have a happy, healthy holiday season.
Shape of the City is dedicated to keeping Lincoln informed of health and wellness programs and events. Visit our calendar at lincoln.ne.gov, keyword Wellness Calendar.